Oh, hot. Now can you hear me? Let's give it a second. Okay, good, good, good. Okay. I somehow muted my mic. It never mutes automatically. Technology, man. So I guess I was talking to a room full of, well, a room full of people, but nothing. I've been plagued by audio from day one. So, okay, I was like, oh no, I'm not in the mood for this evening. So, well, where did I start off? Well, I thank everybody for coming in, I guess. So I'm glad everybody can hear me. Oh, you know what? Let's just kind of get started. I have got a whole litany of things. I had to get a foam board to put on my tripod tonight because I got so many pages worth of stuff. So, hey, Megan, Becky, Tom, and Jan, the worldly traveler. B, I got a little bit of everybody. Becky, and I know Pamela's on here for all the way from Tuscan, which is awesome. So, hopefully we don't have any issues. Can everybody see me? We're all good? Somebody want to comment if they can see me? I just got a weird error message, so now I'm freaking out. Oh. Well, I'm going to assume if you're all on here still, I'll get started. So if you've got questions, pop them up. But I'm a little worried here because I'm getting some weirdness. Bear with me here. Whoops! Instagram. Let's see. Okay, well, I'm going to have to do something a little different because, hey, Shelly, for some reason my chat feature has died on the computer side. So I'm going to have to go on my phone. So hopefully I will see things. So Chris is on here. Peggy, Shelly, awesome to see you. I know you got a couple trips planned. So awesome. Well, we will just kind of get rolling. Hopefully this little issue on the right resolves itself. But oh well. So let's get started. I've got a whole litany of things tonight. I had like 3 pages. I got 9 things to touch on. So tonight we're going to talk about research. Well, first of all, I should probably start out that we're going to talk about planning your photo adventures. What do I want to call it? Like long term or like, away from your home and then just kind of like a day trip. So I think I'm going to focus mainly on, the long trips, things you can do. But at the same time, all this stuff is going to be able to do, whether it's a day trip, I don't care, whomever or wherever. So we're going to talk research, traveling, and sense of how we get there. Lodging and food. I know all these are super interesting. Location, discounts. Everybody loves discounts. Base camp, equipment, because that's everybody's favorite is photographers. And then weather, and then the final one is restrictions, which is one I never thought of until I started planning a lot of these trips. So when I start out, so let's jump back to May. So we've all seen it on Instagram and Facebook, these worldly travelers who literally like hop, skip, and a jump, and they're all hopping around. And I'm thinking, man, I wish I could do that. And how in the hell do I do that? The first thing I mean, when you think of travel, you think of all this expensive stuff. It's airfare, and it's food, and it's gas, and rental cars, and so on and so forth. And that stopped me right there. I'm like, man, that's just too much. So I would say last April, I got this whim. I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to a national park on a weekend, over a holiday weekend. That was a bad idea, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But when I decided to do this, I thought, I'm just going to like fiddle around and see what it costs. And the Zion trip was a lot more than I had anticipated, but I'll go into that in a little bit. But then, if anybody's heard, I'm next. Well, I got a date planned. So the 3rd through the 6th, I'm going to head down to White Sands. And I'll kind of talk about how I've planned all these little trips here in and out and the little nuances of things that I have come across. And the big thing where I started out is research. It's like research. Because I'm going to tell you, knowledge is power. The more we know, the easier it's going to be to travel, whether it's air, boat, train, car, multiple kind of things, which we'll get into next. But when it comes down to researching, we all think of this thing, our phone, or we're into that Google, sitting there Googling, Yahooing things. But I will tell you, social media is a super awesome place to start. So I know I'll say TikTok and everybody's going to go, oh, TikTok. It's not all about dancing anymore to stupid songs. I mean, I'll say there's so much good information on there if you know what you're looking for. Instagram. And when I'm talking like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, I'm almost talking more if you've heard of Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels. These are like quick little snippets that people are throwing up. You've probably seen some dumb ones that I've done. But what that does is, what I love about it is I can digest and consume so much information in a short amount of time. So if I do like TikTok Reels on Instagram, Facebook versus the Google search, I have to type in I can type in White Sands National Park on Google. But I've got to go through pages and pages of website, and I have to make an assumption that when I look at the title, that it's going to give me what I want in that little descriptive. So I got to click into it, scroll through this ridiculously long, whatever article, and maybe that's not what I'm looking for. So for me, then I was like, I don't know. So I just started getting onto TikTok, and I type in White Sands. What I love about it is those TikToks are so short, 30 seconds or less. I'm going to see really quick snippets of video. Or now you're getting these people who travel and they're like, top 5 things to do at Zion. Okay, 3 things you need to know about this. That is so much information we can consume in a short amount of time. So I could be like, nope. Okay, that's great. Awesome. Nope. Yep, that's great. And I can just go. So the more you can consume, the more you can research, the better. If you've got any questions, pop them up. Hopefully I'll be able to see them on Facebook. But with that is, you can do like one thing I Googled when I was looking at White Sand. Well, actually, we'll kind of get into, let's not go there quite yet. I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm so excited about it tonight. But there's other things you can plan and things to search for. So when I'm researching, best time to visit sand dune or White Sands or Great Sand Dunes National Park, whatever my destination location is going to be, because I don't prefer to deal with crowds. Let's go back to May. Zion. I will tell you, I've been to 2 national parks in the last 5 years over a holiday weekend. There's pluses and minuses to that. The pros to that is I get an extended weekend. So for me working a 40-hour week job, I get to extend my PTO. I get to use less. I've got an extra day, so I may be only taking 1 day of PTO versus 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. The problem with that is that weekend's probably going to be super, super busy, super packed because everybody's there for the holiday weekend. Good example would have been Great Smoky Mountain National Park down in Tennessee. That was hell. There was literally cars parked on the side of the road for miles and miles and miles. Literally. If you wanted to get to this parking area, you had to stop and park 5 miles away and huff it. I know, turn around. That's the negative things to that. You've got a lot more people. So let's jump back to May with Zion. So when I was in Zion, we did that over Memorial Day weekend this last year. Oh, I think maybe my chat popped back up. If somebody just wants to, I don't care, flash me an emoji or something so I can see it, that would be awesome. Then I can make sure that that's working. I don't have to rely on the cell phone. So when we went to Zion, we did that over Memorial Day weekend. That was actually really good. I was actually kind of dreading it. I was terrified. I'm a worrier. I'm always looking at stuff and be like, okay, am I getting into, Perfect. Thank you, Megan. Um, is I'm a worrier. I'm like, what am I going to run into? Like, I have a lot of preconceived notions. Like, I see a trip or I see something, I want it to be this way. And then I get there and it's not that way and it sucks. So Zion was very interesting. I'll get more into Zion in a little bit when we start talking about more planning stuff. But Zion is interesting because you have a town, let me think of it. I always want to say Scottsdale. It's not. Springdale, which is literally on the edge of Zion. Like literally you can see the park entrance from town. Like you can literally walk to the park. That's awesome. It was actually, I was kind of dreading it because the more I researched Zion, I found out that it's super packed all the time. Because it's super, I would say any national park in the freaking state of Utah is packed all the time. And there's all this other stuff coming along with it, crowds and this is and that's it. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is going to work. So there's things you can research into that, and I'll get into here in a little bit more. But when you're talking, like, I'm going to like kind of just broadly go, you can take any of this information to any trip. I don't care if you're going to go lay on the beach in Florida. But I'm going to kind of just go where I travel and how I travel and all that tonight. So it's going to be mostly national parks. But, you know, when you're researching like the best time to go, what are all the like hiking, things like that, and you're just getting all this information, I compile it to a lot of sheets. Like I have notes on my iPhone and I copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. But one thing, if you're into the national park scene, the National Park Service has an app, which is super great. You can go in and you can go by state or activity. I can pull up Arizona and see all the national parks and national monuments within the park system. So like I was kind of on a whim here. I've been like noodling another trip, like weekend trip to a park. And as I get into more of this later, like I said early on, is I wondered how does all these people do this? And it just seems like every time you think about traveling, it's cha-ching, cha-ching, it's money, money, money. So I'll go through a lot of these tips tonight. It's going to save you some money, kind of plan things. And you can make these things as elaborate as you want or very simple. Oh, yes, Janet, it's an awesome app. I love it because you can see so much. It's like handy. It's like all the information you want about national parks in your hand without having to Google. It's super easy. So let's talk about kind of the traveling situation. Now, after you've done all your research, obviously that's a very broad term. So when I research, I'm researching location. So when I was researching parks to go to, obviously I can't drive there. I don't have time. So it's going to come down to flying. I'm going to have to fly. So when you think of flying, you think a lot of money, and not always, which I'll get into in a little bit later. But when I was doing my research on my traveling, is how I'm going to get there. You can go by plane, train, car, you can drive, whatever. But if you can actually take Amtrak really close to Glacier National Park, if you have time to do that. You can drive. When we went to Glacier in June, we drove. We drove a van all the way up there. That was awesome. I like to travel in that sense and see the world. So, but I can't. So when I was looking for another park to go to, I was just kind of like, I have a list in my head. Sequoia, Yosemite, Death Valley. Let's see, Great Sand Dunes National. What was the other one? Oh, Mesa Verde. Those are like 5 that I always repeatedly come back. So one time I just got bored and I Googled, national parks in Arizona, New Mexico, the Southwest. I've never been to the Southwest. So White Sands came up. I'm like, ooh, White Sands. But then when I Google in my travel planning, I got to fly. And I don't do well driving in the car by myself beyond 4 hours. That's my limit. So for me, I was trying to think, well, how am I going to get there when I'm planning and researching? Obviously, I'm going to fly. Where am I going to fly out of? Well, I can fly out of CID, which is Cedar Rapids. I can fly out of Des Moines. I can fly out of Moline. I can fly out of Omaha, wherever I choose to. It's all within like a 5-hour or less drive. I have my trip, like my airlines that I like. We love Delta at the Tedford household, but what I'll tell you, when I'm planning to fly Delta, American, United, those are expensive, man. I mean, I was looking at flying down to El Paso is where I'll be flying into White Sands. They wanted $500-$600 for round trip. So Allegiant, I love Allegiant, for the most part, but they don't have a lot of destinations. If you're really looking for a good one, you can fly Allegiant out of Cedar Rapids straight into Vegas, and there's several parks within, say, a 4-hour drive. So that's what I think of. So I Googled one time, and even recently, national parks near major cities or airports. And I got a list. And it would say, oh, White Sand Dunes. You can fly into Arizona and drive 5 hours. You can fly into El Paso. Okay, I can literally, so I'll be flying from Omaha down to El Paso. I'll hop in a car and I'll drive 95 miles. That's not a bad trip. It's amazing I can get on a plane and be in New Mexico same day and be where my destination is going to be. And when you're doing that, I was looking at that. So then I really wanted to go out west farther. I wanted to do Yosemite or something like that. Death Valley was like number one, but there was just too much obstacles. I'm not 100% sure about Death Valley with all the flooding last year. I think it's fine. I just didn't want to take any chances. So when you're looking at this whole traveling thing, it's like, how are we going to get there? Is it multiple forms of transportation? So I'm going to have to hop on a plane. I'm going to hop in a car. Easy enough. That's probably how you're going to do it for the most part. But so then I started looking at flights. So I took out the big three, United, Delta, American, all those guys. They're just too much money. And I'll tell you at the end, if you guys want to take some guesses on how much I'm spending total for like 4-day trip down to sand dunes, throw them in there. We'll see who's closest because it's not as bad as you probably think. So I've flown Allegiant. I don't mind it. I've flown Frontier Airlines ages ago. Loved it. They were a little bit more higher than I cared to pay. They didn't fly to a lot of places that I wanted to go. They did with overnight layovers. I don't want to do that. I'm horrible. If you ask my wife to travel with into an airport, I'm very anal about everything. And we're here 30 to 90 minutes or 90 to however many minutes before, and we're all this stuff. So Frontier wanted me to do overnight layovers. Well, that tells me I'm burning way too much time for me to actually going to do what I'm doing. And then as I was looking, I'm thinking, what are other budget airlines? Allegiant, Frontier. I heard of Sunways or Sun something. I don't know. They didn't interest me. And then I forget about Southwest. It's like, oh, I've never flown Southwest. Hear lots of great things about Southwest. Well, so I'm thinking, what's the closest place they fly out of? It was Des Moines. Problem with Des Moines was to El Paso, they fly out one time a day, 8:40 in the night. I'm not getting to El Paso till about midnight. I do not want to hop in a car and drive 4 hours at a place I don't know in the dark. And it's funny, I'm almost 36 years old, and I remember my grandparents saying, oh, I don't like driving in the dark anymore. I'm getting that way. I don't want to drive in the dark. I don't want to do any of that stuff. So especially in a place I don't know. So then I thought, well, where's the next one? Well, in my mind, I know I can fly out of Eppley Airfield in Omaha. The reason I'm flying out of Eppley is because my mom can take me down, pick me up. Yeah, it's 4 hours over there. I'll leave Thursday night. But they had about 10 flights to El Paso, everything leaving from 5:30 a.m. all the way through 9 o'clock at night. So that gives me a very broad window of times to choose going and coming. So it's one of those things when you're looking at that kind of stuff. It's just things like you have to think about like that. And I've now got my little list saved on my computer, so I know all the major airports near parks. So the next time I get a whim, I don't have to plan so deep. Any questions so far on anything? Nothing? No questions? Okay, we'll just keep rolling then. So, now we've got, we've kind of researched where we're going. Now we're talking about how we're going to get there. Well, then it's going to come down to obviously food, lodging. How am I going to stay there, right? Where am I going to stay? Obviously, is it going to be a hotel? Most people it's going to be a hotel. Can you camp? If you're a camper, that's what I'm doing. So let me talk about some of the lodging options kind of things. A lot of national parks have lodging within the park. Now, it's not going to be cheap, but it's convenient. Not all of them. So for me, I have no problem. I'm renting a something or another, Mazda mid-size SUV. I have chose to camp, but I'm not taking a tent with me. I'm actually going to sleep in the back seat with my sleeping bag, and I'm going to rough it. That's fine. That saved me a lot of money. Most people aren't going to do that. No, but let's talk about Zion. So when I went to Zion, it was nuts. So we stayed in Laverne, which is, I believe, about a half hour south of Springdale, kind of the main park entrance. We stayed at a La Quinta Inn. My wife went with me. So we stayed at La Quinta Inn. That, for a half hour from the park, was $500, $500 for Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. 3 nights at a La Quinta Inn. It was ridiculous. But I will tell you, when you research hotels, because a half hour north in Springdale, that same room for 3 nights went from $500 to $1,000. Same room, everything. Why? Convenience. It was in town. You could literally walk 2 blocks, be at the park entrance, walk a path right to the visitor center. It's convenient, so they're doing that. Same room, same thing. So, I mean, there's pros and cons. Yeah, we had to get up earlier to travel and kind of go, but it is what it is. But it saved me $500 by doing that. So, camping for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, $42. I'm staying at a state park 13 miles away from White Sands. So, not bad. That's going to be easy. It's going to be super easy. I roll in the vehicle, I back it in, and there I'm done. Awesome. Super done. I don't have to worry about anything. No questions so far. I just must be answering everybody's questions this evening. So it's things like that. Now, you know, we looked at renting an RV for Glacier. That was ridiculously expensive. Didn't do that. So Zion, we stayed a half hour from the park. You know, I'll be about a half hour away in White Sands. Now let's jump to Glacier in June. My mom got a hotel room within the park. That's a big pro right there for Glacier. Glacier is a very busy park. You have to have permits and passes and all this stuff because it's so popular. Now, what happened is we stayed right off Lake McDonald. So the awesome thing with that was I was right there. And it was a hotel. It was literally like, it's not a hotel, it's a motel. Doors on the outside. Literally, I don't know, a couple hundred feet from Lake McDonald. It was awesome. I could get up, get dressed, walk out, scout what I wanted to do kind of right in our area, and then go to the shop and pick up a coffee at 6 a.m. And by that time, the sun was up and where I wanted it to be. So it was very simple. It was very easy. What was super nice about food is there was a restaurant right there. White Sands is different. So what I'm doing, and most people probably aren't going to do this, but I'm taking food with me. I'm going to fly with food, but it's not like what you think. So I love these things. They're not cheap anymore, but I'm going to take these. This is called an O meal. It's like an MRE, meal ready to eat from the military, but they're a lot better. They're lower calorie for me, for anybody who knows my journey there. A lot less sodium, but I'm going to pack like 5 or 6 of these in my bag, which I'll show you later. That's going to be my meal, but I'm going to stop at Walmart and get some apples, that kind of stuff. So that's how I'm saving money there. Now, Glacier, which was awesome. Oh, how do I keep your photos from looking like every photographer's pictures? I will get to that here in a moment. I'm going to have all that stuff, the food kind of thing. But Glacier, there was a restaurant right there. Now, the cons to that was, guess what? The food was freaking ridiculous. Not like bad food. It was good food. I was surprised. But it was expensive. Like a wrap or a burger was over like 15 or 16 bucks. But it's convenient. It is. So Tom asked me, how do I keep my photos from looking like every other photographer's pictures? So let's jump to 2 years ago in Badlands National Park. I love that place. Been there 7 times. It's like 9 hours from here. It's actually a pretty easy drive for the most part. It's up and into Minnesota and straight shot. So I took a bunch of photos and people were like, that's not Badlands National Park. Yeah, it is. I was there for an entire 7 days. No, it's not. Why? And they said, because I've never seen that. Well, you know why? One of the things I do is I try to go beyond the touristy world. Zion, that was hard. We did some hiking. There's not many places in that park where you can get farther beyond than where most can go, or where most, I say, choose to go. Badlands, we went backpacking in the backcountry on those trails. And there's no one out there. It was my brother-in-law, myself, my friend Nathan. we were the only people as far as the eye could see. So I was photographing things that most people probably aren't seeing, the regular Joe traveler tourist, because they don't get out of their vehicle. They go and stop at the parking lot and they walk the boardwalk and then they do the little trail and they're done. Yeah, it's an evil. We were there in June and it was still 95 degrees. It's evil if you've ever been to South Dakota, far west. It's hot. So one thing I try to do is I look at locations, which I'll talk here in a little bit, kind of the safe locations, which I'll talk again about. But I also kind of try to find other locations that most people don't know about. And I'll tell you how I do that here momentarily, Tom. But so, the whole food and lodging thing, that's easy for the most part. I mean, you can find it wherever. I try to find it and keep it affordable. But, the O meals are going to be great for me. Am I going to eat those 3 times a day? No, I'll probably be lunch because I'll be in the park. Dinner, I'll probably go to can't think of the town nearby, but I might go there for dinner one day. So, you can balance that stuff out. So let's talk about location. So Tom just asked, well, how do I get my pictures different than everybody else? Well, one is location. And how do I do that? Obviously, I research the safe stuff, the touristy sites, all the stuff where you're going to get the crowds. Obviously, we all got to photograph it because I think it's let's say Yellowstone, super populated park with people. I've been to Tetons. I will go to Tetons any day over Yellowstone. Most people probably want to string me up by my heels. My least favorite park is Yellowstone. Sorry. I've been there a couple times. It doesn't excite me. But I go beyond that spot, like I said. I try to go and find a place that nobody's ever been, or I shouldn't say no one's ever been, where most people don't go. Or I'm shooting details of a location. There's a photo I have on my Facebook page of a heart-shaped rock. You wouldn't know it's in Yellowstone unless I told you. I found that on the ground because I was photographing details. So photograph the things that people don't normally want to look at. Everybody photographs going forward. No one ever seems to photograph going backwards. So one of the tip I always tell people in my intermediate landscape class with Paul's photo is as you're going out, every once in a while, turn around, look back, look up, look down, look right, look left. Because we are so zoned in on this that we forget this, this, and this. And this is how time you make things different. People aren't doing this or this or this. We're all doing that. Or you know what? Do this. You know how many cool photos I found looking straight up? If sequoias on my list. Everybody shoots sequoias straight on tall trees. I mean, you see your vertical shots go or your, straight up shots, but try something different. I think you just kind of have to experiment and go beyond that next step is pushing yourself photographically. But the other thing you can do too is in the research process, look at other photographers' pictures. So then you may not be getting those same shots and see what everybody is photographing. It's annoying. Then try to go the opposite way. I think no matter how many photographers we put into a park, there'll always be something to photograph, something different. Look at a photo workshop in a sense. There's 9, 10, 12 people in a workshop, and we all can come back with different images. So location's a big one, but I will tell you this. Yes, you can research and go to the touristy places. Park rangers are going to be awesome. Visitor center rangers, all those guys and gals are awesome. Don't get me wrong, but local. So my mom's husband, Scott, he loves going out west. That's where we always seem to go for vacation. We go as a kind of a group family thing. And he loves to eat at the Greasy Spoons. So do I. The little diners, the places that are local. I have found some of the best information from parks, that kind of stuff, is locals. Because you always know you're on vacation. Oh, yeah, here at Glacier National Park on vacation. Yeah. Oh, where'd you guys go? Here, here, here. Well, that's really cool. And they'll always say, but have you been here? No, never heard of it. Yeah, it's kind of a local spot. Only locals know about it. Or if you're eating breakfast and you got a super nice server, say, hey, is there any cool spots around here? It's not so touristy. They'll tell you. Coffee shops, local. I don't care if you're stopping at the local gas station, buying gas. Ask somebody. Locals know best. I mean, they live there all day long, 24/7, 365. So locals, I don't care. Any place you can stop, that's local. Even the little trinkety gift shops, things like that. So that's another way you're going to find locations and make your photos different too, Tom. Let's talk about let's go into discounts. Basically, I'm kind of all over, but talking discounts and saving money on a trip because we all love to save money, right? So there's so many places. So I saved 35% on my rental car down in El Paso by signing up for text messages. And guess what I did? I got my code and then I went and said, stop. Whatever, I got my code. I saved my 35% off. Now I'm done. Save me money there. Any of those sign up things, emails, all that, sign up for it. That's how I found out about my flights being more affordable was I'm on Allegiant's email list. I'm on Southwest's email list. And they're saying, hey, one way, $35. Okay, to where? That's what kind of started the whole process of me going to White Sands. So it's things like that. And just keep an eye on it. Once in a while you'll get it. And like I've had emails come through like, we haven't seen that you've traveled with us in a while. Here's a special discount code. Saves me money. Why not? The other thing that I saved money on when we did the Zion trip was we bundled airfare and a car through Allegiant's website. Oh, yes. Corey says, get the annual pass for the national parks. Yes, I will. Let's talk about that real quick. So you've got the annual. If you're big into traveling to parks, get the annual pass. It does because most parks now are $25. $25. So let's talk about saving money. This is going to do it. So they've got it. I don't have mine downstairs. So the other thing is if you're a veteran, I believe last 2 years, they finally signed into law that if you are a U.S. military veteran and you can prove it, like I have veteran status on my driver's license, you get the veteran pass for free. That saves me, I think, $25 or $30 for White Sands because you have to pay to get into these parks. If we didn't, we wouldn't have money to do it. Oh, yes, and Sid says if you're a senior, you can have a lifetime pass. Yeah, there's so many. Like, go out to the National Park Service. There's something for everybody. I mean, I think I don't know what the national, like the lifetime pass and some of those cost, but if you go to a couple parks in a couple of years, it pays for itself. So that's an easy way. Thank you, Corey and Sid, for bringing that up. That's awesome because that helps, again, save money as we're talking about discount. So one thing that I did is we bundled the car with the airfare, and we actually saved a pretty good chunk for Zion. So that was nice. Another thing that I would do is you may not save, like there's like Expedia and Priceline and all those guys. I will tell you, I could have found flights for about $60 cheaper, but we flew down to Florida in, when was that? September. And we booked through a third party, like one of those Priceline kind of things. And we ran into an issue. Delta changed our flights 6 times by the time we flew. Now, we booked our flights like 8 months ahead. But they changed our flight 6 times between that. Our last flight was, we were supposed to go Cedar Rapids to Detroit to Orlando, easy. On the way back, they wanted to put us on a Delta flight from from Orlando to Detroit to Atlanta to CR, because all the airlines canceled routes. So they canceled the route from Detroit to Cedar Rapids. So that's why we had to go down there. But the problem with that is we had to switch that. We had issues. We went directly to the airline, which was Delta. They couldn't pull anything. They couldn't access anything. We had to go all through the travel agent that we used through Expedia or whatever my wife did. We could not get a hold of them. We literally like skimmed by like that quick of not being able to go. So what I will say, if you book directly through the airline, they can pull up anything, and just that's a quick tip, makes life easier. Yeah, you might be paying $30 or $60 more, but it's well worth it than being stressed out. The other thing, oh yes, like points. So Southwest, now that I flew up, I signed up for their rewards program. So I earned like 1,800 points towards my next flight or upgrades by signing up for their free rewards program. They also sent me an email last week and said, hey, did you know if you shop at these online retailers, you get points? There's a lot of them I shop at, so I can rack up points there to get early boarding or upgraded seats or flights, whatever. Use points. Check your credit cards. If you've got credit cards that does points, I think my credit card through the credit union, I don't get points per, but I can trade them in for things like that. So just, you got to look, and be cheap. Oh, Pamela says, bad experience also with Orbitz. Yes, never again. I booked through Expedia for just a quick weekend trip back in August. And unfortunately, I had bed bugs in my hotel room. So guess what happened? I went down, was very polite, and told the guy at the front desk. And he was like, nope. Long story short, I showed him. He couldn't do anything for me. He wanted to give me my money back on my room, but we couldn't because I had to go through Expedia. Well, Expedia doesn't know about it. So I had to tell that guy. So I had to be on hold while he called the hotel to talk to the manager to get my money back. Again, should just book directly. Let's talk about base camp. Well, what does base camp mean? That's like your central location. Is that hotel, camping, White Sands, my base camp's going to be 13 miles away from the park. Simple. My base camp for Zion, half hour away. Glacier, I had multiple. Glacier, we were in the park part of the time. We left there after about 3 days. We went to another hotel. That was a little farther from the park. That was like 35, 40 minutes. So try to get something and create like your base camp, like your area of operations. Like you're going to leave there and plan that kind of central if you're going to go to multiple locations. So you're not driving 50 plus miles here and 10 over here. It's very centrally located. That's kind of a quick, easy tip. It really cuts down on the travel time, what it does. So let's talk about equipment, because that's what we all love to talk about. And how much do you bring, not bring, flying versus driving? Obviously, when we drove out to Glacier, I took my Nanook camera case, had everything in it. But I was traveling with SLR gear. That was a lot bigger. We flew to Zion. Southwest is awesome. I get 2 check-in bags and a carry-on for no cost. Allegiant charged me up the butt for everything, literally. Every bag got charged. That's why I don't love Allegiant. But that I always take my carry-on is always my camera gear. I've seen too many horror stories with TSA agents breaking things. I've seen it in person from clients at PhotoPro that came in. Too many issues. I let them do that. I say, hey, this is my camera. When I'm flying, I have all my lithium batteries in there. They don't like it checked under the plane and for fire reasons, things like that. I just recently saw a reel on Instagram where somebody's lithium batteries somehow went off in the overhead compartment of a plane and it was smoking. So I don't want that under my plane. I prefer to have that in the overhead bin kind of thing. So the mirrorless is I can't wait to fly with mirrorless. It's going to be super, super easy. I'm going to be able to put everything in a backpack and throw up into the overhead bin. So it's going to be super easy. Oh, how many batteries and memory cards do I take? So good question. On batteries, now with the mirrorless, I used to take 6 batteries, and on a whole entire trip, I would probably use like 2, 3, because that was SLR. Very conservative with the battery usage. The mirrorless is a sucker. Kind of thing. So now that Becky had asked about batteries, let's get into that kind of thing, because I have the Nikon batteries and all that good stuff. So those are nice because I can charge them. I take a battery charger with me. I also have an inverter that I can plug into the vehicle that I rent. So as I'm driving around, if the battery gets low, I plug in my Nikon charger and then plug in the battery to that, and I can charge while driving. But I've got something super cool here. So first of all, I'm going to say, because I'm always open and honest, these were sent to me by ProMaster to test. So in theory, it's sponsored in a way. But anybody that knows me from PhotoPro, I don't use crap. I don't sell stuff, tell people about things unless I used it and I have good experiences, or I'll tell you bad. But look at this thing, right? It's just a standard battery, right? Well, this is a game. I don't use the word game changer very much, but this is my normal battery that I would put in my camera. One thing it stinks is I'm out in the middle of nowhere, like let's say sand dunes. I'm not going to be able to walk up and plug into a bush and get my my memory or my battery charged up. So one of my things that I travel with is this guy. It is my USB. I can plug USB into this. It's solar powered, which is super nice. I can throw it on the dash of the car as I'm driving around. So it's a oh, what do you want to call it? A battery bank kind of thing. We use these at Disney. We plugged our cell phones into them all day, kept them charged. This has a USB port and whatever the Android plug-in, whatever they call it. But I'm going to tell you this right here. This battery, again, it looks like a simple battery, but this is a game changer, I think, because there's something different about this battery than any other battery. And this is what I'm super excited about. I'm so glad that ProMaster sent these so I could test them, because if they work well for me, I'm going to have a whole bag full of them. Why? On the back, I don't know if you can see it, if it's going to focus. Probably not. No. There is a USB-C port. Yes, a USB-C port built into the back of this battery. It comes with a cord. So what I am going to be able to do while I'm out and about, let's say I got a battery, it's getting low. I'm going to take the USB-C or the USB port. I'm going to be able to take this thing, or like my truck has a USB-C port built into it, as well as 2 USB ports. I can plug this USB into my truck or into one of these devices, take said cable and the USB-C, and plug it into the battery. No one else is doing this. This is like the most revolutionary thing to me. Now, I can be in the middle of White Sands charging a battery. The other cool thing with this is, well, how do I know it's charging? There's even a battery indicator on the back. So I'm super excited to try these out. So I know, right, Jan? Wow. I mean, this is like a game changer. So I can't wait to test them out, because how many times have you been somewhere? I've grabbed it, thought, all my batteries are charged, man. And I go through all of them, and that last freaking battery, the last one that I need to complete something, is pretty dead. Well, right here, charge, uncharge. Super cool. Whoever thought of this is a freaking genius, in my opinion. So I can't wait to see how they roll down in sand dunes. So, you know, like I said, yes, they sent them to me. It sounds like I am kind of pitching it, but to be honest, I mean, I've used ProMaster batteries for a very, very long time. I've had very little issues with them. So I'm super, super excited. So great way there. Geez, I can't remember her name, Becky, to have that as an option. So I can't wait to try them out. The other thing is, we're talking about gear. So outside, I'm going to take all my lenses. I don't want to talk too much about camera lens or camera gear. What I want to talk about in the sense of gear is the non-things we don't think about in traveling, like this guy. Or this one right here. Does anybody know what this is? So I carry it anytime I go out west. Yes, don't lose that cord. Probably dedicated piece I lost to Sony one and can't buy it over the counter. Yes, that is correct. Sid, yes, you got to be careful. Yes, bear spray. Everybody needs bear spray. I don't care who you are. You go out west, take bear spray. And I will tell you the tip on bear spray: don't put it in your freaking bag. It does you no good when you run into a bear. Most people say, I don't run into bears. When I was in Glacier, we ran into 2 grizzlies. They weren't horribly. I mean, they were in a sense away, kind of far away. But a grizzly runs pretty fast. I ain't playing that game. So, yes, this is always on my hip. I go to the bathroom, I take it with me. It's literally wherever I go. It's on my belt for the entire time. But I'll also tell you this. If it works on bears, it probably works on people. Not saying I knew just randomly use this on people, but hey, the world's a crazy place on occasion. I guess I got my bear spray for 2 things. But bear spray is super important. Buy it. It's not cheap. If you go out to like Glacier, you can actually rent it for the day for like $10 if you're going to go hiking. It's just one of those things. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, because in that situation of needing it, not having it, yeah, you're toast. Not going to say that bear spray is going to save you every time, but it's good to have it. The other thing I don't have to show is when we went to Badlands, I have a full med pack that I take with lots of things, surgical scissors, all that good stuff, bandages, all that kind of stuff. I'm an Eagle Scout, a Boy Scout. I guess I'm always prepared, but you never know. And it's not always going to be for me. It's going to be for somebody else I come across, that kind of thing. In the world of gear, outside of batteries and bear spray and the meals, this thing. Woo! This will be my carry-on. Or not my carry-on, my check-in bag. But this is my Mind Shift rotation 180 rotation. What's super cool, this on this side has a fanny pack that comes out. So this can be on my back. I can have my lenses in it. I magnetic the strap. It pulls around to the front of my waist. Everything opens this way. So I can get to all my gear. When I'm done, it goes right back in. I don't have to take the backpack off. I don't have to lay it on the ground. Plus, I can take all that stuff hiking. I can take my food, my med kit, all that kind of stuff. So this is not the super cheapest bag in the world. I will tell you that right now. But I will tell you this. This thing holds up. I've taken it to 2 parks now. The other thing is that this is off my back. I can unzip this from the back and access gear. What I love about it, super thick straps. So it's very comfortable. I've got like galore straps. Everything around here, like these zippers, do have a rubber seal. It does come with rain gear. If you are interested in purchasing one, let me know. I have a link to Think Tank's website because I am affiliate. And it saves you some money or some free stuff too. But it is one of those things that's like a good bag. I've been killing for that bag for ages, and I finally got one. And it has made my life so much easier because when I went to Badlands, I had a bag inside a bag. I had a regular Osprey pack for hiking in the backcountry. So I wanted to get out another lens. I had to take the bag off, get into the bag, pull the other bag out, unzip it, swap. That makes life so much easier. They also have a pack, a little box. I don't want to call it a box. Another package, you can extend it. So if you're not putting in like extra things. So like when I hike backcountry stuff, if I choose to do that, I have to have other gear. Or if I don't have other gear with me, I can put that in the top and extend my storage out. What else in the world of gear? When you're flying with like TSA and stuff, just like I already mentioned that, let them do that. But yeah, the Think Tank bag is super nice. If you have questions on bags, the other thing I love about Think Tank bags is they're not cheap, but I'll tell you why they're not cheap. Is they're built like a tank. I've got one out here I've beat to hell and back, and it's crooked now because it beat all the padding out of the bottom and it still works. But the other thing I like about the Think Tank stuff is 90% of it is carry-on compatible on most airlines. Simple. Nothing like trying to measure a bag and all that crap, and you get to the airport and they want to check your cameras in under the plane. That's a no-go for me. So all their stuff it's meant for like photojournalists, traveling kind of photographers, so a great way to start out. I don't know if Diana's on here tonight, but I know she just recently got a Think Tank bag, so I'm kind of curious to see how she loves it. But I've got the Mind Shift, which is a part of Think Tank. That's 5 Think Tank bags now, maybe 6 if I count. So I've got them all for different sizes. So get a good bag. Oh, it's $8.50. I could keep talking all night. Let's talk about weather. So, let's go back to gear real quick. On the gear side, I always take extra stuff besides my hiking boots. I have one pair of those that I've broken. Don't buy new ones before a trip. But I always take extra underwear, pants, shirt, all that stuff in my bag because God forbid I'm, say, in Glacier in June or July and the water's cold and I slip and fall in the water, I can get dry because being wet is not a good thing. Because when we were in Zion, we were the first people to hike Narrows that morning with about 65 other people behind us. The bus driver stopped. There was a guy sopping wet, got left by the buses the night before, was sopping wet and stayed overnight on a bench. I'm surprised the guy didn't die of hypothermia, to be honest. I've never seen somebody shiver so much. So you just have to be prepared. Weather. The bane of everybody's existence. Research past weather. That's what I did as I was planning my trip to White Sands. I don't know. I've never been down there. I don't know what the weather's like. Is it 80 in the winter? Is it 60? Is it 20? I don't know. So I looked at past weather history and patterns. On average, it's about 60 degrees in the day, 22 at night. So that tells me I need a little cold weather gear and some kind of like spring day stuff. But I'm also they say that park gets, I think, only 40 days of rain a year or less. But I'm still going to take a raincoat. Because guess what I didn't take to Glacier? A raincoat. Guess what I did? Had to buy one outside the park for $100. Oh, well, lesson learned. So always take that stuff you didn't. Oh, yes, it is very dry down there. Yes, and plenty of water. I've got planned for water, too. It's things like that. So lows of 22, highs of 60s on average. Glacier, it was rain. The first day, downpour rain the entire freaking time. Glacier is like nuts. It went from super chilly and wet and rainy on one side of the park because it's more rainforesty over there on the west side, and the east side of the park is more rocky and mountainous and that kind of thing. And the weather changes. Like it went from being super warm on the west side to cold and rainy and back. You have to have layers. So again, weather helps me plan the gear I need to take as well. Rain covers for camera gear. For me, I never thought about it. Sand is not going to be any fun with cameras, so I got to worry about that when I go down. Zion, sweet Jesus, was that hot. That was 90, 95 degrees. So what did we do? We woke up at 4 a.m., drove to the park. Two good reasons for that. One, the parking lot, we got one of the last two parking spots at 5 a.m. in the park. And there's a lot of parking spots there. So we traveled, got up there. We did everything in the morning. By 10 a.m., it was getting hot. We've already hiked. We've done all that stuff. I got my water. We got all that. We don't have to worry about it. Well, everybody else, these people on vacation sleep in till noon, even some national park people. And guess what? They're all there during the hottest of the day when it's busiest. We were there at its coolest point, as cool as it could be, and a lot less crowds because Zion is, I'll talk about that more in a little bit, but that's a very busy, busy park. The other thing, is keep a close eye on weather. Weather changes. So I like to check out 10 days, 7 days, 5 days, and 3 days out. So Tom said, would you ever be interested in attending Burning Man? I don't know. Yes, the event is a pure dust storm. Would you just stay with one lens or figure a way to change lenses in the dust? Good question. I know of Burning Man. It's nuts, I've been told. I've been invited. I've never gone. But I will say with mirrorless, find a way to change lenses. I would probably go with one lens. If I remember right, you got the Z9. I might look at like a 24 to 120 lens. So that it's going to give you really good quality still from what I know of that lens in a pretty wide angle to a decent telephoto, and go with one lens. I would not change lenses if I don't have to, unless I am in the vehicle or I'm in the car. The car or like in a building or something. There's too much having a sensor exposed, and just dust and sand and grit is not fun. It's like water. Two things that are bad: sand and water and dust. The other thing too is if like you ever photograph color runs where they throw that stupid colored powder in the air, stay away from it. Don't even go there with your camera. It's going to wreak havoc. I saw an article a couple of years ago where if you go to like lensrentals.com and those places, if you photograph a color run, it voids every warranty with them because they took a lens apart and it wasn't zooming real well and it was packed full of that freaking colored dust. So you have to watch out for that kind of stuff. But that's a really good question, Tom. Let's go. I don't know. You never know. I'm always up for something. I almost had a guy, Ben. I don't think Ben's on tonight, but Ben was looking at maybe hopping down to White Sands with me, but he's busy. So I'm always, if I got like a head's notice and I'm kind of interested, I might be. You never know. We'll have to talk about that over coffee sometime, Tom. So, the weather thing, kind of back to that, just know your weather, 10 days out, 7 days, 5 and 3, and then keep an eye on it while you're there. So let's talk about restrictions as we wrap up. These at 8:56. Restrictions. What do I meant for restrictions? Well, if you go to the national park website for each park, they will have the little triangle with the exclamation point that says like these roads are closed or these trails are closed. So one of the trails I wanted to hike at Zion had a landslide 2 years ago. It's still not cleared. I did not realize that. They don't think it's going to ever reopen. It's just too dangerous. So it may be a hike that's never there. Restrictions with Zion as well. Let's go back to White Sands. White Sands can be closed up to 3 hours for missile tests. These were on the edge of White Sands testing ground for the U.S. government, and they test missiles. They say check the day before. The least notice they'll give us 24 hours or 2 weeks out. So the other thing that's really weird with White Sands is most national parks are open 24/7. Some are closed Christmas, things like that. So when I went to Badlands, that was open all night long. I could go anywhere in the park all night. We did some astrophotography there, got stopped by a park ranger. I'm like, oh, crap. And he's like, no, you guys are enjoying the park at night. That's super cool. So that was nice. But so White Sands, they have hours. They are only open at 7 a.m. to, I think, 7 p.m. right now. And then as we get into March, April, May, they go later. And then summer, they're open till 9. But I did a little research. Guess what I found out? I missed the deadline by 3 days. But if you spend $75, you can apply for a permit and actually get into the park at White Sands earlier. They will open the gate just for you if you pay them. I think it's $75 per hour you ask them to open early, assuming it pays for the person to walk over and unlock the gate. But hey, you can do that. You're going to get into the park before anybody else. Before sunrise, you can hike to that spot. So that's kind of cool. Glacier. Glacier has restrictions as well. Going to the Sun Road, the most popular road from one side of the park, the easiest way. Problem being, 2 restrictions. It's such a popular park. They have permits you can purchase, but you have to get on the National Park's website for reservations. The park is the pass is $1 or $2. Problem is they only have 200 to 500 a day. I sat at a restaurant eating breakfast on my phone, logged in, hitting refresh, trying to wait till I got logged in. We didn't get a pass because all 200 for that day sold out in 2 minutes. That's a lot of passes. But there are other ways you can get into the park. Like we stayed in the park at the little lodge. That gave us our entry pass into the park. We could go on going to the Sun Road. The second restriction with going to the Sun Road is weather. They open most of the time by end of June because that is very high elevation. It was almost open before I got there and found out that it dumped about 2 feet of snow the week before and they had to replow. It did not open, I think, this last year, 22, till mid-July. Yes. Oh, yes. And Jan says if you go to Glacier after peak, there isn't a restriction. Thank you, Jan. Yes. A lot of these parks only are having restrictions when it's peak season. So go to Google, research, when's the best time to visit Yosemite? I want to go to Yosemite. I teach a lot of clients or class people, students from California with Paul's Photo. Guess what? They're all like, go to Yosemite when it's the off season in the winter. There's less people, right? So that's all part of the research too. White Sands, I researched it. The lowest attendance for White Sands is February. 20 or 1,000 less people a month. That's a really low number for a park. Zion, they have restrictions as well. If you want, you can drive through the park for the most part, but the most popular part of the park where it's off the road, the paved road, where all the hiking is, the Zion Lodge, if you choose to stay there. If you choose to stay in these parks, you have to do this like a year in advance or you're not going to get a hotel room. But I think it's what my notes say. I think it's April through November is peak time. You have to park at the visitor center or the overflow parking, hop a bus, which sounds horrible, and ride the tram up into the park. That is easy. It's awesome. You don't have to fight traffic. You don't have to spend half your day finding parking spots. But when you're outside those normal peak times, you can drive through the park. I will tell you there's not a lot of parking within the deep section of Zion. Zion's becoming, I would say anything in Utah, Bryce Canyon, Zion, all those are becoming more popular every year. So as I wrap things up, because it's 9:01, I will stay on for a little bit for questions and a few other things. But right this year, there are 9 out of 63 parks that are going to have restrictions. Acadia in Maine, Arches in Utah, Glacier in Montana, one that I can't pronounce, Halalica Claw, whatever, let's call it in Hawaii. Rocky Mountain National Park, which kind of surprises me, in Colorado, Shenandoah National Park in Virginia, Yosemite in California, Zion in Utah, and then it's not a park, but it's a national monument. It's Muir, M-U-I-R Woods. So you have to, but all parks at some point are going to have some type of restriction. The national park, due to COVID, had a very large influx of people because those weren't really like shut down. So everybody became nature-ish these last 3 years, and it just skyrocketed. So a lot of these parks are toying around with different types of restrictions and reservations. Like one park has timed entry, so they're going to only allow so many people in at a time. A lot of people said they love that because it's a lot less people, a lot less farting around with people and being rude, things like that. One thing that I loved about Zion does not sell bottled water anymore. You have to buy a bottled water, like an actual like Nalgene, or bring one with you, and they have water fountains. That is the cleanest national park I have ever been in. I don't think we saw one speck of trash in that entire park, as they all should be that way. But it is. Yellowstone, people throwing bottles all over. So you're going to see a lot of things like that now. So do your research. So that is all I have for tonight. So I just like barfed out a lot of information. I apologize if you're on last week. I was not on my A game. I was getting over a cold or something, and it was no fun. So I apologize for that. Any questions? Let's like throw them out there. I've got time. So any questions or tips? Jan's done a lot of national parks. I know Glacier, Acadia, and I know you've done a lot more than that. So, but yeah, throw me some questions up because I am in the mood to answer. No, nothing's. Well, let me just jump ahead. So next week, we're just going to do a really light little one. It's going to be sharing your images. I'll just talk about how to share through Instagram, the changes with Instagram, maybe Reels, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't care what your goal in this whole photo thing is, if it's to make money or just show your work to the rest of the world, there's ways to do it. We're going to talk about that. So any other questions so far? Oh, thanks, Tom. I try to rock it. I sure am trying to help the photography community. So hopefully this year, obviously I'm going to keep doing these things as always. The weekend I am in Sand Dunes. I don't think I'll be able to go live because of my research. There's very little, cell phone reception. So that's the week we are going to put art back in fine art. I'll just probably move that one to March sometime. But, you guys know where all to find me. Phone numbers on my websites, contact forms, give me a call, shoot me messages. I've got kind of like a list of parks and things I can help you out with. So thanks, everybody. Tom's been joining. Everybody's been joining a lot lately. So I enjoy it. I try to do it. I'll keep doing it, as I say, every week, as long as you keep coming. So, but yeah, I think the next couple weeks, I know in February, because Jesus, that's right around the corner. We're going to talk, obviously we'll do the fine art thing in March. We're going to talk about raw files in February, macro photography in February. So if you go out to tedfordphoto.com, I have a tab that says educational resources and online events. You can actually go in and click a late night exposures tab. It's going to give you, I think I have everything out there. Or no, it's not going to give you everything. It's going to send you out to YouTube where you can watch all these live if you catch it, or not live. Catch it, the rerun, as I call it, afterwards. So, but other than that, any questions? None? I can't believe I answered everybody's questions. If not, we will sign off here. Let me talk about one other thing real quick before I forget. In the traveling world, I had it sit right in front of me. Itineraries, backup, redundancy. All my boarding passes will be here. I have had it where my boarding passes don't work. They don't log up. So guess what I do? I have everything printed. I've got all my trip reservations for Southwest. My flight numbers are printed. I have my rental car, all that. I've been in so many situations where I can't get to information, and it's there. So that was kind of a quick one. I don't think I've got any more other gear laying around. So you are welcome, Jan. And other than that, if there is no questions, I am going to sign off and hope to see you all back next week. So again, as always, thank you. I enjoy having everybody here. If you find these valuable, please feel free to share my YouTube page, these kind of things, Facebook, all that good stuff. Oh, you are welcome, Megan. So Awesome. Well, you guys have a evening. If you do a great evening, geez. If you think of anything afterwards, feel free to message me. So, oh, awesome. Jay was glad to see you here. Paul, Corey, thanks. So have a good evening, guys.